When did you start playing Beat Saber?
I started playing Beat Saber at the end of May 2018.
March of 2020.
Oh, I think sometime around February 2019.
Well, I started playing Beat Saber in late November 2020.
I bought the game May 2nd, 2018.
I remember starting to play Beat Saber in November 2019.
The first time I played was in an arcade in about May 2019.
I started playing Beat Saber on day 4, that would have been May the 4th, 2018, just after release basically.
I remember playing it for the first time on the 25th of December 2019, Christmas Day.
The first time I played was in mid-2018 at my friend's house. It was maybe like a 30-minute play session, but I really enjoyed it. So I asked my parents for a VR headset for Christmas and got one later that year. So the first time I started playing on my own was on Christmas Day of 2018.
Like many people during that time, I was going through a lot of stuff and I was very depressed. And it's safe to say that Beat Saber was one of the things that got me through that. What was the experience like when you first started playing the game, and how does it differ from today?
Well, when I got the game initially, I was still at high school. I was 16 years old, and I remember just playing it and kind of being awestruck in the virtual reality environment, as well as just finding the game extremely addictive.
Well, when I started, I was pretty much addicted, like straight away. Almost immediately after starting the game, I came into the UK community. And with everyone was competing closely together. If somebody was going up a rank, saying somebody reached top 50 in the UK, everybody knew about it in that server. Everybody knew what was going on.
I think when I started, the game was definitely a lot more casual. People were really just playing for a love of the game.
Every minute I spent with the guys on the old Pro Discord in the end of 2018 was sick.
Well, for the first year and a half, really, there was a discovery period mainly.
Very simple. There was just the default OST songs, a few custom songs, and like a couple of mods. I don't even think there was a tutorial back then.
We didn't have Score Saber to work with, so we would just message each other our scores on the leaderboard. We were discovering things like how to hold your controller properly, or even how to use mapping tools properly. Even a lot of maps at the time still used most of the lower row.
The difficulty level back then was much easier for newbies to start, and it didn't take too long also to get into ranked properly.
When I first started playing Beat Saber, the community was definitely a lot smaller. Score Saber was really the only thing that was around for the competitive scene to play. There were tournaments, like the Cube Community Summer Tournament, I think was the first introduction to the competitive scene that I saw.
What do you think sets Beat Saber apart from other rhythm games? It's probably just being so involved in the game.
So much more of an immersive experience than, Osu, I guess, when you're looking at a monitor.
In Beat Saber, you were straight fighting for your life while you were playing that.
It's a lot more physical than other rhythm games, besides maybe like DDR.
The fact that timing isn't as big of a deal compared to other games. I mean, in Beat Saber, it's more about actual body movements and how accurate you can swing and having the right settings and all that kind of stuff. Like, it's more of a kind of mental and physical game.
With the community, there's just a lot of people who add to the game and just make it so unique. I know there's mods for other games as well, but there's just something so special about some of the very interesting mods for Beat Saber.
The game's immensely popular with casual players. It really is one of the headline games. But even still, to foster such a competitive community at such a high level, as well as the incredible contributions made by my modders and everyone else involved in the scene, tournament organizers, etc. And it's really rare to see a game with both.
It's pretty much more the modders and the modding community behind the game that give the game a certain touch to make it better and much more interesting to play.
Do you remember the first custom song that you played? What was it?
It was Take Me Home Country Road.
Believer by Imagine Dragons.
Take on Me by Aha.
And I can't remember who mapped it, but it was Party Rock Anthem by LMFAO.
Megalovania.
Fucking reality check through the skull.
The first one I played that made me really want to continue playing the game would have to be Citrus Expert, mapped by Mystic Mole.
Back when the Beat Saber didn't exist and there wasn't a plugin to download maps in-game, you had to go to a Discord channel in BSMG, and you had to download each map specifically. And I remember back at the beginning, when there wasn't as many people mapping, I would just go in there every day and play every single new map that was released.
Yeah, DCSL published his Butterfly map, which was a conversion from DDR using his DDR to Beat Saber tool, which came out very shortly after.
The first custom song that I played was Neutrino by Cry, the top diff. That was when I was over my friend's house. He showed me that, and I was like, that looks cool as hell. I want to be able to do that.
It was the wonderful Chile con Carne by The Real Group, mapped by Emir. I still play it, even to this day. Except nowadays I can almost squeeze out a 97. Not quite, but almost there.
What's the most memorable moment you've had over the past 5 years? It's kind of random, but I would have to say my 3-hour-long grinding stream of Japanese Transformation by Sniffies in I think like mid-2020.
TwitchCon meetup last year, 2022, was one of the most surreal experiences of my life. Seeing a face that I don't recognize, and then they open their mouth, and what comes out is the voice of a friend that I've loved and care about for months, or even years for some of them. And that happened multiple times a day.
Just earlier this year, in fact, just over 2 months ago, when I held the first ever, official Super Triple Rumble tournament, which was a very big thing for me personally. The fact that we did something that had never been done in the Beat Saber community was it made me very proud of myself and the entire team that worked on it. And a big shout out to Schrodinger, TK, Mikatyu, Flake, Mr. Super.
But I think the best moments were when I was able to meet new friends I made. I was in Amsterdam for TwitchCon, met like 50 people there. This is just a giant group that turned up to the convention. That was awesome.
But I think my favorite is probably World Cup 2020. To be in a tournament like that, the first of its kind, and just the energy and the experience of playing with such a big team was unmatched.
Are there any moments in a past tournament that have stood out to you? Well, I mean, with my experience at tournaments and whether I've passed them or not, there's far too many again. With Tai Chi's like many different plays in tournaments, the Garsh and Seret tournament arc in the grand finals, day after day, every tournament.
In Beat Saber World Cup 2021, we played the first round against Denmark, who are now one of the strongest countries, like definitely top 5 in the world. And we went all the way to tiebreaker with them, and won the match in Game 7 in the tiebreaker by a hair.
I think a couple of moments that really stand out to me from past tournaments are, I think the first World Cup where we had a tiebreaker song made, which was Camellia, which was incredible to find out. That was such a big reveal, as well as just every time there's a tie in a tournament match. That's always a very incredible thing, just to have two people be so evenly matched.
In BSL Season 1, we had one song in one game where the scores were exactly the same. It was really fun to watch.
Netherlands versus the United Kingdom on Camellia's Necreus Snowmelt. It's a 7-minute map. I remember the United Kingdom won the first playthrough of the map with a 94.7725, if I remember, averaged across the board. And the Netherlands call for a replay. They score 94.7725%. So they have identical percentage down to the 4th digit. I ran the numbers, and in fact only 72 points determined the winner of that map, which was the United Kingdom. And I believe it was Pink who stated in the Twitter replies that if a single player had scored 8 points less on a single block, assuming max multiplier of course, then the United Kingdom would not have won that map.
I think the one that stands out to me the most was back in the first random song tournament when Logan beat Taichi in the grand finals. That was just such a strange outcome, and it was so fun to watch. Also, please do more RSTs. I'm begging, please make them, please.
What are some of the most interesting mods, models, and maps you've seen made by the Beat Saber community? I'll go with my favorite mod map ever made, which is When the World Caves In, map by Monty. I was just browsing, and I just saw, with new maps, you know, and I just saw Monty, and I was like, well, shit, sure, let's play. Monty is great. All of his maps are awesome. So I had high expectations, but when the first chorus hit, I was so shook. I completely stopped playing, and I legit, like, shit you not, I cried in my headset. Like, I was stunned.
I mean, I also have to mention the Swifter maps. I remember playing one of them for the first time, and I genuinely teared up because I just thought, how is this possible in, you know, such a simple game?
Somewhere Out There, mapped by Swifter. It was, I think, my favorite Noodle map. It was incredible to play for the first time.
I mean, there's so many by this point that a lot of things like noodle maps, wall maps, etc. had reached the point of being just straight art. One that I remember is Star Sky 2 Steps from Hell. I'm not entirely sure who made these.
In terms of models, I've been using the same sabers. I've been using Kyle's Tesla sabers for the past 4.5 years.
There's so many different skill sets that we all have, and it makes the game so much better. Like the addition of poodles and stuff that you can do with that. Like recently, Sync had a map called The Difference, which is such a fun map to play, and it just shows a bunch of different mods working together.
Are there any plays from players that, however old, have stood out to you?
Taichi's Machine Gun FC.
Taichi's Machine Gun FC in BSL Season 1.
Well, Taichi's Machine Gun FC in, I think it was the BSL finals.
Taichi's Machine Gun.
That was just one of those videos that everyone knew.
Is the reason why I started playing Beat Saber.
Taichi's Black Dream Day play from December 2020. That play, when it came out, bonkers.
Rog Dude's first pass on Ig Pereira, mapped by Cannoli.
Rog Dude completing Ghost at a time where the Ghost series was starting to look unplayable.
Estrella's 96 on OV when everyone was there. I'm really excited for him getting it.
Cooling when he passed Nisimono for the first time.
Razor's first pass on Architecture, mapped by Bananan.
Quite a rare one, but Seska's Hold Angel expert score.
Any of Just Call Me Jack's plays, even like up to today.
Would you say the community has had an impact on you? If so, how? It definitely had an impact on me.
Quite a lot, actually.
This community has allowed me to just excel in so many ways, like both personally and I guess competitively in the game.
I've been in here very active for now 5 years.
It's pretty much formed, like, to an extent, who I am today as well. It's made me far more confident in general.
Made so many new friends, did so much stuff, spent so much time and money, frankly.
I created the BSPD around June, July time of 2018. It's the Beat Saber Pro Discord. I've made really good friends in that little group of us.
I've met some of the best people I've ever spoken to through this community.
Yeah, it's helped me immensely.
I have met so many of my friends through this game, even people that I've like met in real life. And the people here have really just allowed me to become a lot more outgoing. I'm definitely more talkative, and it's really opened me up to so many more opportunities.
The community's had on me has been incredible. I can't even begin to fully explain it. I've spoken to so many incredible people, I've met so many incredible people in person, and I've been able to travel because of the people I've met through this game.
Do you think the community has impacted the longevity of Beat Saber?
This is an obvious one, yes.
Yes, definitely.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah, definitely.
No, the community has made Beat Saber what it is today.
I think it definitely has made an impact. Probably not to the extent that some people talk about it.
I honestly, This might be a bit controversial, but I'm not sure if Beat Saber would be relevant at all without this community.
I think it's pretty much impossible to say that we haven't. Like, I think the game would definitely not have lasted this long if we didn't have such a rock-solid community.
Beat Saber would have died before well, maybe not when I got it, but I'm sure the community and the game would have died by now if custom songs and modding community was not a thing.
Having so many mods that can change the game in so many ways, such as adding a leaderboard, adding funny models, so many cool maps. There's so many maps that people have made that it keeps people coming back.
I think it's not the greatest impact, like in terms of player numbers, but in terms of what's possible with the game, and like in terms of content and that sort of stuff, definitely.
If we didn't have these things, the relevance of the game certainly would be much lower than it is now. And as a community, we definitely can't take the whole credit for the game's continued player base, but to not mention how much we have definitely done for it and how we complement the base game, it would be absolutely criminal to not talk about.
I think the modding community has allowed this game to flourish so much. I just think we breathe life into the game as a whole, and keep it alive for a lot of people.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. What keeps players playing are the players.
What was your favorite tournament to cast?
For that, I would have to say EUC, just because it's my tournament. Ryan and myself set that up during the last year.
The fact that I got to travel to Italy to cast in person with some incredible people.
So that Gilo, Magician, Bantelope, and me could cast together in person here in Milan
with 3 of my best friends from the community, and sitting in that studio casting my tournament. It's great. It's awesome. I really want to do that again.
I would say probably the tournament that I had the most fun casting would be World Cup, because being able to cast with people like Gilo, Magician, Rocker, it's just it makes it that much better. Having that synergy with the other casters that you're with is great.
I think that one would have to go to the World Cup in 2020. Because even for the matches that like maybe weren't as interesting or there was a technical issue, the overall community response to everything that happened in that tournament was so fun. No matter how big or small a country, everybody found that tournament fun.
What types of tournaments or formats are the most fun to cast?
I would say usually team-based tournaments are more fun. There's more going on, so there's more to like naturally talk about. You get to talk about team composition, strengths and weaknesses of those teams, which you can do as for single players. But I just think that the team composition part of it adds more strategy. It adds just more depth. There's just a lot to talk about there.
There are the very big ones. And those are fun because there's a lot of team effort, a lot of preparation, and a lot of hype surrounding them.
UC was great just because of the way the bracket was handled. That led to so many great matches. World Cup is always awesome just because of the intense skill you can see, like the best of the best always in that tournament.
Tournament type to cast is definitely gimmick tournaments.
I would say anything with an element of spice in them. Think bring your own maps or random song tourneys and such like that.
It's probably any tournament that has any sort of element of unpredictability.
I think RST was great. Just the pure chaos of the random song tournament is awesome to cast.
The results are always just so up in the air. It's never really predetermined just by knowing the player, which just keeps it very interesting to talk about and to watch.
Because there are so many tournaments nowadays where you can look at a matchup, you can pretty much just look at their score saver or you know the players, and you can just work out what the winner is likely going to be based on the map pulls.
There's so many great ones. Honestly, most of it is really fun.
How do you balance casting for both experienced and novice viewers? Because like one rule I got from football, because across the UK we more often than not do have things like football on that is soccer for the American listeners, do have football on the radio, is that you always want to be able to know what is going on without having to watch a match. Even if you don't know the game, if you're seeing a fierce battle between players, the words keep coming in, you don't have time to think. You think of that thrill, that excitement, that thought is where many casters, I think, aim for in those hype matches. And it makes it so much nicer because you strike that sweet spot and all parties involved can enjoy it.
And also, we do repeat some particular information we state that is obvious for experienced players. Like, for example, most people know that a miss equals to around 4,000 points. So a 4,000 points of difference means it kind of like a miss of difference.
Best way that I balance casting is for the newer players. I kind of explain some things that might not have been like mentioned on stream, such as map types, what different stats mean, like speed, note, amount, and like NJS. Whereas for the more experienced players, I talk about the players' in-depth strengths, so that obviously someone who knows the game, knows a bit about the players, will obviously understand that and be able to enjoy that the same way that a new player can kind of wrap their head around how a tournament works and how a different map might be more difficult than the one they just saw.
I think you always want to go more in the novice direction, at least that's what I do. Because if you have someone who's already great at the game themselves and they know how to analyze players, they don't really need the casting. Get to the bottom of what's important for the people who don't watch every single tournament and play the game actively. You want to explain it the best you can to those and make it interesting. So you're mostly there as like a storyteller.
I think ultimately for me, I'm just there to try and make the best enjoyable egg casting experience, even if you've never played the game. And that's by just shouting random stuff and hoping that it is funny. So yeah, that's that.